this day 4 of the Feast of Tabernacles. I'm so happy that God has kept us until the day 4 of the Feast of Tabernacles and has given us help and happiness in the feast, where we know in heaven there is also a feast like this one. So we want to thank God for giving us a privilege to know His times and also to obey His call to keep these times. May I welcome you all from the comfort of your homes so that we can continue the study of these planned feast studies for us to understand more about God. So I am going to start today from the topic which I have given in preparation for the kingdom. The topic is, are we going to know the time? Are we surely going to know the time of the coming of Christ? Right, that's our topic for today. So let's go and understand it, starting from the book of Matthew chapter 24, verse 36 and 37. And I'm going to take it from the book which we are studying from the Ellen White Estate. And this book is amazing. You have to go and find out for yourself what God has in store for us in the second estates. It's called SC, which is Second Coming, SCOC 51.2, and then we can go to 55.1. So we will try to touch some of the things that will enable us to know whether we are going to be told the date and the time for Christ's coming from this book. It's in the New Ellen White Estate, E.G. White Estate, right? So let us read from Matthew chapter 24, verse 36 to 37, right?
But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only.
Did you hear that? This has misled a lot of people, thinking that God does not want us to know the time. But we want to study this verse so that we can understand whether are we surely going to be taken by surprise. And the coming of Christ, will it just be by surprise? And why this time should it be by surprise when every time He did not surprise anyone? Right. Let us read further to this verse. Yeah.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as
now,
in the day...
This verse is referring us back to the days of Noah. So it says, the coming of Christ will be exactly like it was in the time of Noah. And we will study the time of Noah in conjunction with our time to see that, because the verse has led us to say, that day, is it going to be known to us? And the verse says, but of that day and hour knoweth no man. Did you hear that? And some have even gone to say even Christ doesn't even know. And some have said not even the angel knows. But is it really true the way we have been made to understand that verse? So let's read on it from here.
For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking,
right,
marrying and giving in marriage.
Right. Let's go back to the quotation which I gave you from today, where it starts with the SC, the one that I just read from the New Estate. The day and hour from that verse. Yeah? Okay. Start from the verse, but of the day, right?
Verily I say unto you...
No. You are from the quotation I gave
but
for
of the
today.
day.
Yeah, but of the day. Yeah?
But of that day and hour knoweth no man.
Right?
No, not the angels of heaven,
right,
but my Father only.
Right?
But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Right? Let's hear what the Spirit of Prophecy is saying about that verse. Go further to it.
The day and hour,
right,
and even the year,
right,
of the second advent are purposely hidden.
Right? Purposely hidden. Those days are purposely hidden. Right?
Some of the prophetic periods reach to the end of the time,
Right?
while others extend still farther down,
Right?
very near the end itself.
Right?
Yet none of them reach the coming of the Son of Man.
Right?
The prophecies clearly point to the period of the second advent,
Right?
but do not give the definite time of that event.
That's the commentary. But
But many suppose that the text proves that nothing may be known of the period of the second advent.
right?
In this, they greatly err, as,
Right.
as may be seen from the following reasons.
Right. So many believe that because the prophecies never even said the date of his coming, they never went as far as his coming. Some just make us go as far as the end, but not exactly in the date and the hour. No prophecy has gone there. And some, because of that, they err in thinking that so nobody should know. This is what we are being told. In this, they greatly err, as many as may be seen from the following reasons. What are the reasons that makes us, err when we think that day will never be told us? Let's read. Reason number one.
One, because our Lord, after stating that the sun should be darkened,
Right.
and that the moon should not give her light,
Right.
and that the stars should fall from heaven,
Right.
gives the following forcible parable,
Right.
and makes the most distinct application of it to this subject.
Right.
He says,
Mm.
Now learn a parable of the fig tree.
Now, we err because the parables have pointed to the coming of Christ. Now we are going to study from this parable to see whether we have a hint of his coming. Now, this is the parable of the fig tree. Let's hear it. It is on the same chapter on verse 32 and 33. Yeah.
Now learn a parable of the fig tree.
Right.
When his branch is yet tender,
Right.
and putteth forth leaves,
Right.
ye know that summer is nigh.
Did you hear that parable? The fig tree develops small branches. And which one is the fig tree? The fig tree is the house of God. That's a tree, right? When it starts developing, people who call themselves, they've changed the name of Christ to the name of branch. These are a few people yet tender. Few. Not the whole house of God, just a few. Know this parable, that when the house of God develop branches, some people profess that Christ has changed name to branch from 1844, according to Great Controversy, page 415. There are not many. The branch is yet tender. This is what I understand from that parable. The branches are yet small in number, tender. Then the fig tree, if the fig tree is the house of God, has it developed the branches that are yet tender? Then know it. This is Christ coming to us to state the time of his coming, brethren. And he says, know the parable of the fig tree. When it develops, yet the branches are so tender, then know something. Let's repeat that parable. It's verse 32. Yeah?
Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender,
Right?
and putteth forth leaves,
Right?
ye know that summer is nigh.
Right.
So likewise ye,
Mm.
when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors.
Right. Have we seen that? Have we? Because it's not in any other denomination. No other people have got people who know Christ has changes now. Instead of being called Christians, they are branches. But they are yet few or yet tender. Know that summer is near. Know that the time is. That's a hint which is coming from the parable of Christ. Now let's read on. That's why I say, you err when you think the time is never going to be told. The time of the coming of Christ is going to be told. It says, look from Noah to this time, it should be the same. Right, read on. No figure.
No, okay. No figure should exceed the fact illustrated in a single particular. This being the case in the parable of the fig tree,
Right.
the point becomes an exceedingly strong one.
Right?
No language can be more direct.
No language, brethren, can be more direct. Is this house of God the fig tree? Has it developed young branches which are tender? Then no language is as straightforward as that. Right? Let's read on.
No proof
No
can be
proof
more complete.
Can be more complete, brethren. Right?
With all that certain
All that is which is happening in the house of God, all that we have is prophesied already by Christ himself. That is prophesying the time of his coming. Now read on.
With all that certainty,
Right?
with which we know that the summer is nigh,
Right?
when we see the buds and the leaves shoot
Right?
forth from the trees in spring,
Right?
may we know that Christ is at the doors.
Right. So it was when we were with the calendar yesterday, we saw the spring is where the spring season is when we get the latter rain, isn't it? And then are we seeing any leaves springing which are called branches? Right? Then it means it's the harvest which is started. That is the summertime, and that's when the harvest is starting. So are we being told by the prophecies about the time of the end that in this big tree, when they develop young branches which are still tender, not even enough to cause anything, and because sometimes you can say, oh, we are so many. Look at these people who are professing the branch message, or the Christ that is developed the name branch. Look at how few they are. It's a tender leaf. It's a tender leaf in the house of God. But what does it show to anyone? That summer is nigh. Do you understand? Because you understand when Jeremiah chapter 8 says, they will say, the harvest is past. The summer is ended. Which summer? When the young branches were starting to come off from the big fig tree. Right? Read on.
The most daring unbelief
Right?
will hardly venture to deny those words of the Son of God.
These words came directly from the Son of God. These words, he saw the end when he was in AD 31. And he saw the end and said, they will start coming off the house of God. There will be people who will believe that Christ has changed his name from 1844. It's him who changed the name. And it's him who prophesied Zechariah chapter 6 verse 12. We say, this man whose name is called the branch, it's him who formulated the seal in early writing, page 15, which said, the seal has got 3 seals. 1, God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing the branch name, which is Jesus' new name. We saw it, that Jesus' new name, from Great Controversy, page 415. Can you read it for me? Can you read it? Great Controversy. When Sister White is commenting about Zechariah chapter 6, verse 12, what does she say there in Great Controversy? 415. Yeah? Point 3.
The work of Christ,
right,
as man's intercessor,
right,
is presented in that beautiful prophecy of Zechariah concerning him whose name is the branch.
So it's his work. When he now assumes from 1844 the work of interceding, investigative judgment for the dead and the living, but his name is no longer Jesus Christ. He says that name is him whose name is the branch. So some people say, oh, Christ can have any name and what, but that particular name is for that period when he entered the Holy of Holies. But he put it now, the name he assumed when he went into the Holy of Holies, he put it as a seal. Go to early writings, page 15. He put it as a seal to those in the parable of the big tree who will assume that name. Then that branch is yet tender. Read verse 15.
The 144,000
right,
were all sealed and perfectly united.
Yeah.
On their foreheads was written, God, New Jerusalem,
right,
and a glorious star containing
Who
Jesus' new name.
inspired Sister White to talk about this seal? This seal, the 3 seals, came directly from the Spirit of God to show that when then this parable of the big fig tree, this big, we will say it's the shape won't sink. It's a big shape, isn't it? Yes, but it will have small, tender branches, but it's for a sign that the summer is nigh. Do you understand, brethren? Now, let's go back to, this is the first reason why people err, that we will never know the time. But the first thing that the writer says, the spirit of prophecy, says, we err to say that the time is never going to be announced. Why? Because the first reason is that the parable of the big tree, the fig tree, says when we have branches, then that's the time, the summer is nigh. God is now putting the seal. What seal is it? God, New Jerusalem, and a glorious star containing the branch name. Then we know the summer is nigh. He is now about to come. When he's about to come, he starts by sealing the people to become branches. Did you understand that, brethren? It's so clear and straightforward. Up to you to take it or leave it. But that's what Christ has warned us. That feeling to say the time won't be announced, he has heard hints from what is happening from the big fig tree. The small leaves that become tender branches. That's a warning. He has now started harvesting. And he is about to come. Now let's hear from the second, read on. This is reason number 1, right?
Number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because
the most daring unbelief, did you read that one?
The most daring unbelief,
right,
will hardly venture to deny those words of the Son of God,
right,
and assert that nothing can be known of the period of his second coming.
So then if you profess and say we want to know about his second coming, then that fig tree has not convinced you. Let's go to the next reason why we should know, why we are going to be made known the time of Christ coming. Let's hear verse 2, second reason, right?
Because our Lord because our Lord declares that as the days of Noah were,
right,
so should also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Mm-hmm.
Said God to Noah, my spirit shall not always strive with...
Did God tell Noah the time of the destruction by flood? Did he tell? Did he actually give him Noah 120 days? Did he? So, if he did give Noah 120 years, he didn't want to come as a thief to close that ark and to start the rain. He did not. He precisely gave the time. And in our time, he will give the time. Now listen, let's go to read again that reason, second reason, right?
Because our Lord declares that as the days of Noah were,
right,
so should also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Right.
Said God to Noah, my spirit shall not always strive with man.
This is from Genesis chapter 6 verse 3. It says, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. Did you see? The people were supposed to live for 120 years. Now let's hear the commentary of that. The period.
The period of the flood was given to the patriarch.
Were they given? When they say the days of men, the Spirit of God will not continue to be with men. The days should be 120. Now here we are being told the period of the flood was given to the patriarch. Was it given? Right, read on.
The period of the flood was given to the patriarch. And under the direct providence of God,
right,
he prepared the ark and warned the people.
Right. Noah was so clear, was so precise when he was building the ark. Told them it's 120 years and the rain will flow. He did not make a guesswork or make people stay in the dark not guessing when that rain was going to fall. He did not do that. God does not work in the way that we think. He's going to hide and seek and then all of a sudden come in front of us and say, I've come. No, he doesn't do that. He did not do that to Noah. He won't do that to us. He will do those who will read, those who will obey his word, will surely know when he's about to. They'll actually pack their bags to wait for him. Like they did in 1844. They knew the day. Though it was him going into the Holy of Holies, but the day they heard it. Now, on the time when Christ comes, we will actually be the same as what it was in 1844. Now, let's read on.
And under the direct providence of God,
right?
He prepared the ark and warned the people.
He did that, right?
So the fulfilling prophecies and the signs distinctly declare that the second coming of Christ is at the doors,
right?
And the solemn message has gone forth.
If he did that to Noah, then we know exactly correctly that he will do that to us. We will not have a guesswork of his coming. We will know he is coming today or tomorrow. We will know even the day and the hour. It says so in early writing that even the day was announced, the hour was announced. But how is that going to be announced? Stay tuned on PSM TV. We will tell it as it is. From the scriptures, we will be ready when he comes. That is tomorrow, brethren. Is the day after. Is what? We will stay tuned, digging deeper in the gems where he left his day of his coming. But if you want to while up your time doing something else, what they were doing in the time of Noah, only 8 people remained, digging deeper, making sure they were so correct when he is coming. Exactly after 120 years, they went into the ark. They were commanded because they had a prophet. The prophet who was there, who was Noah, knew explicitly what date and what hour they would walk into the ark and wait for the rain. They waited for the rain when they were in the ark. When the rain fell, they were not just busy walking about and not in guesswork. No, they actually told each other, 8 of them, let's go in. Because the prophet was there, where Christ was talking. God was talking through the prophet. Now command your household. Go in. We will see it. Let's study more. Let's hear. Right? Go there. Under.
Point 3.
Right. When it says the period of the flood was given to the patriarch. Right?
The period of the flood.
No, we had finished that chapter. Yeah. Let's go to the other reason. Now, we have 2 reasons so far. The first reason is that the parable of the fig tree. Do we have branches? Tender ones. Tender meaning they are just few. Right? They are not many. Don't expect many here. If you come with that zeal of looking for this and that one and worshiping people in numbers, you will be disappointed. Because it should be young, tender branches. Do you understand? Now, we should actually understand what is in the prophecy so that you are comfortable with just a few. You see, when Elijah was preaching the message, there were not even many on his side. He was just with that little boy who was surprised and seeing many people who were in apostasy there, envying those. And when Elijah told that person, God, open his eyes, so that you see, we have many from the clan of heaven than those in the clan of the devil. He actually knew who was many, though he was preaching alone. Now we have young, tender branches. It should be tender, like what Christ prophesied. He said, tender. You see, it didn't say big branches. He said tender. And he actually says the mustard seed, a tiny seed, tiniest of all the seeds. But when it is put on in the soil, it will grow and grow. We know the growing of the branch will be future. It's not now. It's future. When the kingdom is started by Christ, then the branch will be full like a mustard seed and fill up the whole earth. So we are not looking for numbers at the point. At this point, we are looking for the message. Is it the true message? And when it is the message, we are satisfied. The fewer the number, the more manageable this message. Do you understand? So it's not like billions of people. How do you manage the message when it comes? It has never come that way. Even when Christ came, he had only 12 disciples. It was a manageable number. Do you understand? The reformation starts with a manageable number. You will never reform with a big number. Because it's uncontrollable. It's uncontrollable. Moses started with a big thousands and thousands walking out of Egypt, but he had to lose a lot in the wilderness because they were all disturbing him. They were coming, making life difficult for him. Now, the reformation which Christ starts is young, tender branches. Are they there from the house of God? Yes, they are there. They know the summer is nigh. Now let's read on. We want to enjoy the coming of Christ. We will enjoy all the prophecies. We will take them and read them and understand so that we are sober. When Christ comes, we behave in a sober way. Not, oh yeah, I love this message. Oh, but there are many there. Oh, there are few here. Oh, it means you have got nothing that you are looking for. You should actually know what you are looking for. You are looking for the message of Christ. You are looking for the message of the kingdom. It starts with the tender branches. Few people. Look for where there are few. And even Christ says it in Matthew chapter 7, that there are two roads. One is broad. Lots of people are in it, but it's heading for destruction. And the other is narrow, and narrowest way. And straight and narrow with the few people, but it's going into the kingdom. Now, how else do you want Christ to tell you? How else do you want to? You start the way to the kingdom, and you're expecting a broad way going to the kingdom. How readest thou? How readest thou? Those who read know it should be a narrow way. How narrow is it? So many principles are there that are so difficult if you are worldly. Do you understand? The principle, what are the principles? Let's see the principles. One, you should be keeping this tabernacle. How many are keeping it? Is it a broad way? Do you think it's a broad way on the actual date, which is from 3 to 10? Do you think this is a broad way? When people are so few that are keeping this tabernacle, the rest have committing in wrong dates. But the one that will keep exactly the date that is in heaven should be few. Tender branches. Did you hear that? Tender branches. Now, that's the principle. The principle of 3 times a year. Some will tell you that, I can't be flying 3 times a year to go and worship God. No, today, on a Feast of Tabernacle, today, some are busy in their jobs. Some are busy everywhere. It's a narrow way. You cannot talk about a broad way when you're talking about worshiping God. It should be a narrow way. So, those who are worshiping numbers, you can. And when God says you have to stop eating meat, become a vegetarian to clear your brain, so that your brain is clear. No, nothing defiling your brain, so that you understand this. How many are doing that? How many? It's a narrow way. It's a very, very narrow way. Broad is the way. Broad is a lazy way of doing things. Right? When you're talking communion in the 3rd hour, communion in the 9th hour, where is the broad way? Where is the broad way? When you're keeping the Passover, where is the broad way? Right? Sometimes you can break and say, okay, I'm keeping the Sabbath. But who are keeping it from sunset Friday to sunset Sabbath? Go and check. Check in your house. Then you know which way you are, broad or you are narrow. You check how you keep your Sabbath. And you know whether your way is broad or what. Sometimes they say 12 o'clock, that's enough. They are in football, they are every. So you should know exactly which way you are. Is it the narrow way or is it the small tender branch, or you are something else? And you can check in all the principles. Then you find it's only a tender branch. It's only a narrow way to the kingdom. It's not a broad one. If you want a lazy one, some people are in bed right now. Yet you have taken communion. You have done everything. It means you woke up early in the morning, washing, getting ready for the 3rd hour. This is what they did when this communion service was introduced in Exodus chapter 29. They were all busy meditating about their lives with God, waiting for the 3rd hour to pour out, so that they are upright in front of God. And 9th hour, same thing. How many are doing that? Is it a narrow way or a broad way where you are? Now, let me tell you one thing. We will be ready for Christ to come. And what will make us ready? are the principles. We will stick, we will dare to be a Daniel and to stand alone. As long as he said, thus saith the Lord, we will be safe. Yeah, we'll be set free with a thus saith the Lord. It doesn't matter how many are doing it around you. You are the only one that God has said to you, you do it. You do it. Because they will be numbered. The saints will be numbered. It's not everyone who worship God. It says so in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. Not everyone who said, Lord, Lord, will see the kingdom. Not everyone, but those who will do the will of God. Says several of them will come and say, I was doing this, I was even preaching. When I'm preaching, people, the demons will come up. You know what? You do not brag with the works. You will do what God said you should do, and the works will follow. Now, third reason.
Okay. Those who claim that the text proves that nothing may be known of the period of the second advent make it prove too much for their own unbelief.
Now, when you say nothing will be told us until the day comes, that will strengthen your unbelief. That statement only comes to make you not believe Christ is coming. That's all. When you say no one will know, not even anyone, not even what, then it means your unbelief is so gross. You will be, and someone who does not believe God is coming. So this is the statement that has made people run away from Christ. We left Christ because of this statement. Now read on.
As recorded by Mark,
right?
The declarations reads, but of that day and that hour knoweth no man.
Right?
No, not the angels which are in heaven.
Right?
Neither the Son, but the Father.
Right. Did you hear? As recorded by Mark. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man. No, not the angels which are in heaven. No, neither the Son, but the Father. Listen to that. Let's hear what the commentary says. This is from E.G. White, right?
If the text proves that men will know nothing of the period of the second advent,
right?
It also proves that angels will know nothing of it,
right?
And also that the Son will know nothing of it till the event takes place.
Could that be? Right? Read on.
This position proves too much.
Right?
Therefore, proves nothing to the point.
That's nothing.
Christ
when you say we want to know, then you think the verse also says, not even the angel, not even Christ. So what are you saying? So let's believe nothing. Right? Nobody knows. Not even it's only the Father who knows. That's what you think. You think the angels want to know. You think even Christ wants to know. That's believing nothing. Now, let's hear.
Christ will know of the period of the second advent.
You think Christ will just be dropped on earth without knowing the dead? You think when you take it, the way we have been taught is that nobody knows, not even Christ, not even the angels, except the Father. Christ will just be dropped from heaven just like that. Do you think so? And you think even the angels who are supposed to accompany him won't even know. Now you see, you think immature. You understand? When you think Christ will never know, you are so immature spiritually. Now let's hear.
Okay. Christ will know of the period of the second advent to this world.
Christ will know, won't be dropped from heaven. Right?
The holy angels who wait around the throne of heaven to receive messages relative to the part they act in the plan of salvation.
Right?
Will know of the time and this closing event of salvation.
Right?
And so will the waiting, watching people of God understand.
Amen. Christ will know. The angels will know. The waiting saints will know. Only those who are not saints won't know. Now let's hear. Read on. Let's hear from 1 Corinthians.
An old English version of the passage reads,
right?
But the day and hour no man maketh known.
Did you hear
neither the angels,
correct version of that verse?
Neither the angels,
right,
which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father.
Right. So you see, the version actually said, it doesn't say no man knows. It says, no man maketh known.
Yeah.
It's the announcement that is being said by the verse, that no man will announce except Father. Not knowing, Christ will know. But who is going to announce to the saints about the date and the hour and the day? Who is going to do that is the Father. But it's not the knowledge about the date and the hour and the day of coming of Christ that won't be known. But it's the job itself of announcing the day and hour. No one will announce except the Father. But Christ will know the date. The angels will know the date. The waiting saints will know. So let's not fool ourselves without researching to say and be comfortable in our homes and sleep and no one knows. We all don't know. You know those people who say they know, those people, they are so lost. You are actually the one lost because you think Christ won't know the day for his coming, yet he is the one actually coming. You think Christ won't come. You won't know the date of coming. Have you gone on a journey without knowing the day? Have you? And Christ is going to have this journey to come here, not knowing the date. And the angels even around the throne, not knowing the date. It actually means no one maketh known or maketh the announcement of the day to the waiting saints. Now read on, let's hear.
This is the correct reading,
right?
According to several of the blessed critics of the age.
Right.
The word know is used in the same sense here that it is by Paul in 1 Corinthians 2 verse 2.
Let's hear from 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 2. Right? It says, I
determined not to know.
Right?
Make known.
Make known.
Anything.
Now we know where it says not to know. We say make known. Make it known. Right?
For I determined not to know. Make known. Anything among you save Jesus Christ and him crucified.
Right?
Men will not make known the day and hour. Angels will not make it known.
Right?
Neither will the Son, but the Father will make it known.
Right. So it's the Father who is going to make known the day. It's the Father who is going to announce the day and hour. It's actually saying the person who is going to announce the day is the Father. It's actually the opposite of what people believe. People believe no one knows. No one, not even Christ, not even the angels. What damnation is that? Christ will know the day. The angels will know, the waiting saints will know. That's why when we read in early writings, let's go to early writings, page 14. Early writings, just on the yeah.
Page 14.
Page 14, yeah. Soon, yeah.
Soon we heard the voice of God like many waters.
Do you see? Sister, we're talking about the vision when the day was being announced. Soon we heard. What did he hear? Right?
Which gave us the day and hour of Jesus' coming.
So how do you read that one in correlation with what we say about Matthew chapter 24, that no one will know? How then? Is it not confusion itself? When the prophet says, soon we knew the day and hour. Now read on. Soon
we heard the voice of God like many waters.
Right?
Which gave us the day and hour of Jesus' coming.
Do you see it was announced? Right?
The living saints, 144,000 in number,
right,
knew and understood the voice.
Right?
While the wicked thought it was thunder and an earthquake.
Because they thought it was not going to be announced. They thought it was no one make it. So we have two sections of people. Those who will hear the day and hour being announced. And those who will think that day there is an earthquake. When yet is actually God talking to somebody. And you hear an earthquake. So, let's go back, right? Says Campbell.
McKnight argues that the term know is here used as a causative.
Right?
In the Hebrew sense of the conjugation, hipfil, that is to make known.
Right?
Christ's answer is just equivalent to saying the Father will make it known when it pleases him.
Right?
But he has not authorized man, angel, or the Son to make it known.
Right?
Just in this sense, Paul uses the term know in 1 Corinthians 2 verse 2.
Right?
I came to you making known the testimony of God.
Do you see? That's the correct terminology. He is using the same terminology. I make it known to you. You understand? And
I came to you making known the testimony of God.
Right?
For I determined to make known nothing among you but a crucified Christ.
Right?
Albert Barnes,
Right?
in his notes on the gospel, says, others have said that the verb rendered knoweth means sometimes to make known or to reveal, and that the passage means that day and hour none maketh known, neither the angels nor the Son, but the Father.
Right. That's the true version. Right? It's true.
It is true. The word has sometimes that meaning, as 1 Corinthians 2 verse 2. The Father will make known the time.
Right?
He gave the period of the flood to Noah.
Right?
Which well represents the proclamation of the second advent.
Right?
Given in connection with the evidence of the termination of the periods of Daniel.
Right?
During the Great Advent movement of 1840 to 44.
It was the same when William Miller was given the date. 2,300 days. It was something God was making known to William Miller. That under 2,300 days means we start counting from 457 BC to 1844. That was a period which was announced to the then person who was being used by God, which was William Miller. It was in 1844 when Christ went into the Holy of Holies. The timing was good. Though the event was Christ going into the Holy of Holies, that's why it caused a disappointment, because he didn't come. So, but if he announced the time to go into the Holy of Holies, so you think he won't announce the time to come on earth? He will make it known. Right. Read on for, want to read from Revelation chapter 16 verse 17. Come thou.
Come thou, and all thy house into the ark.
Right.
For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
It's God telling Noah. After building the ark, Noah was building and was waiting for the time to go in the ark. And you see God clearly telling Noah, you now go in the ark.
So should we start from the top of it?
Right, start from the top.
And when the patriarch's work of warning and building was finished,
right,
God said to him, come thou and all thy house into the ark.
Do you see? When he finished building the ark, God still came and said, this is the day. Go in. Right. God does not work with human beings that way, coming as a mystery and saying, now I've come, all the clouds are there, you hoping. It does not work the mysterious way which the devil wants us to believe. But he actually works with the prophet and you instruct the prophet, you go. Like he did to Noah, you go in. Come, I've only found you and your household. You go in. That's what he said. And even in our time, that's why our time will be the same as Noah. After building this other ark, which we have now, it's an ark of the kingdom. He will tell us when to walk into the kingdom. This is what God will do. This is our time now to be preaching, teaching and what. But the same way, he will come and visit us and tell us, you go now. That's the time. Right? And let's go and see exactly what he did to Noah. We want to find out what he did to Noah. There is a topic in one of these books, the Ellen White Estate, and let me give you the page, because the page goes on in like one paragraph. It's the second advent, which is SEADV, or maybe you can say SEADV, from 15 to 17. Let's read it and find out what happened in Noah's time. This one is page 17. SE is in the Ellen White Estate, right? And let's read from where the topic says Noah's time and ours. Since we are being referred to Noah's time and our time, is God actually going to act like what he did to Noah? What he did to Noah should be exactly the same as what he's doing to us. when we are preparing for the coming of Christ, without knowing what he did to Noah, then we'll be, left without facts of knowing how to prepare. Now, let's go. No truth.
No truth of inspiration can be more clearly stated than that God reveals his designs to his prophets.
The first thing he did, he had a prophet. When Christ is announcing he's going to come to establish the kingdom, he should have someone. He should have a prophet. If you don't believe there is a prophet, then you will actually hear thunder instead of hearing the voice. Because what he did when it was Noah's time, there was somebody who he was instructing for building the ark. So that's what he did. Now, if you do not believe, you believe in the, because we have spiritual gifts, we have prophets, we have apostles, we have pastors, we have teachers. Now you remain with teachers, you won't hear what the prophet is. Because Amos chapter 3 verse 7 says, God instructs the prophet. He reveals to the prophet, not to the teacher, not to the pastor, but if on the spiritual gift you have no prophet, you will hear thunder. Believe me, you will hear thunder, not the voice of God. Now here it says, no truth of inspiration. Read on, right?
No truth of inspiration can be more clearly stated than that God reveals his designs to his prophets.
Right?
That men and nations may be warned before their accomplishment.
Now, when he wants to do such a thing, which is the same as when he was destroying the world in the time of Noah, you think you can just act and just give you the Bible and the books and say, find out for yourself? He has somebody who he will instruct the building of the ark, as it was in Noah, and it is in our time. He will have somebody, he has already somebody who he instructs about this other ark that we are building. That's the ark of the kingdom. That's what he did with Noah. When there is no type, there is no truth. We have a type, brethren. The type is Noah. We have been referred to Noah. About, the Bible says it. What he did to Noah is what he's going to do to us. And even here, the spirit of prophecy is telling us, go back to Noah. Then you know what happens in our time. And let's see.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets.
That's Amos chapter 3 verse 7. So it doesn't reveal to this. Do not fool yourself and say, now I have the Bible and sleep the whole night praying, all night praying and think he's going to instruct you anything. He won't. You won't. Don't ever fool yourself. Because the Bible, God will never lie. He instructs a prophet. You will reveal the secret to a prophet. Unless you know where the prophet is, you will never come across that message of when he is going to come. You will never. Let me tell you, you fool yourself with so many fools and foolish thinking. But let me tell you one thing, you will never understand except the prophet. God reveals it to the prophet. Right?
Before visiting with judgments,
right,
God has sent forth warning sufficient to enable the believing to escape his wrath,
right,
and to condemn those who have not heeded the warning.
Right.
This was the case before the flood.
Right.
By faith, Noah being warned of
chapter 11 verse 7, right?
By faith, Noah being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world.
Right. Who was used during that time? A prophet. Noah. Yeah. People left Noah because they were being fooled. Elsewhere, people were also saying, I'm also called. I was called also by God. He's inspiring me. No, but unless you go to the prophet of the hour, you will never get the timing of the kingdom. You will never get the preparation of the kingdom. He did that in Noah. It was Noah he used. We were not told anything about whoever was building the ark, because that massive building, of course, many people participated in building it. But never did God change gate and speak to anybody else except Noah. Right? Uh-huh.
At a later period,
Right?
when the nations had become sunken in idolatry and crime,
Right?
and the destruction of wicked Sodom was determined,
Right?
the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do?
When he was destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, in Genesis chapter 18, verse 17, read it in Genesis, he did not go to anyone else. He went to the person he was using. He had called Abraham. He's the one who communicated. He had not communication with everybody. Say, you, I say this, you, and this. You know, he's not a confused God. He has one person to communicate in every age. In the time of Abraham, it was Abraham. In the time of Noah, it was Noah. Don't fool yourself and go and find cages somewhere and say, I also had something today, unless you are a tear. But if you are a wheat, he will communicate through the prophet and you will know the prophet. Mm-hmm.
The Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation.
Right.
And all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him.
We saw him being called in Genesis chapter 17. He was called and says, through you, not through it. There were not many Abrahams. There was one Abraham. Through you, you will be the father of all nations. I will be. And even the Christians who will be Christians, they will be your children. In Galatians chapter 3 verse 20, the Christians will be all under you. He called him and he knew exactly who he was dealing with. Even many people were there, but he chose one. Right? Mm-hmm.
And due notice was given to righteous Lot.
Right?
Who with his daughters was preserved.
Right?
And none, even in that guilty city, perished without due warning.
How was Lot preserved? Because he was connected to Abraham. Once you are connected to the prophet, you will be preserved. Abraham is the one God had to tell him his secret, that I'm about to destroy Sodom. And Abraham had to plead for Lot. You understand? It was the prophet who preserved Lot. Right? And
Lot with his daughters was preserved.
Right?
And none even in that guilty city perished without due warning.
Right?
Lot evidently warned the people, and in thus communing with them was vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked.
This is what happened. This we are reading from Peter. 2 Peter 2 verse 7 and 8. Lot, even when he was told by Abraham, he had also to warn others who laughed at it and mocked it. And each time you find you are mocking the things of God, actually you should know for sure God has communicated a warning. Normally when God communicates through a prophet, people are in a state of mockery. They mock, they trifle, they do everything. That's what they did to Eddie Jones and Wagoner. That's what they did to William Miller. That's what they did to Sister White. That's what they did in all ages. All the prophets are mocked by the people who they are trying to save. Right?
When he warned his sons-in-law, he seemed as one that mocked.
Right?
And when the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter, Lot warned them and entreated them to desist from their wickedness.
Right?
And they at once did that which all sinners since the days of righteous Lot have been disposed to do to those who faithfully warned them of their sins.
All
Namely,
sinners.
they charged him.
All sinners have got one qualification or one character of mocking. And if you find someone calling someone a satanic, someone calling up, this one's a defector, this one is a what, all those names, they come from sinners. Because God's people do not do that. All sinners were mocking Lot. All sinners were mocking Noah. Because they are sinners, that's why they develop all these mocking words. Right? And right.
And they at once did that which all sinners since the days of righteous Lot have been disposed to do to those who faithfully warned them of their sins. Namely, they charged him with being a judge.
They say we are judging. You are judging. You know, when he was warning them, they say, you are judging. You are satanic. Let's call them. Let's not think we are holy. Let's not this and that. This is what all sinners do. Now, let's say before the destruction, right?
Before the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus,
right?
A forerunner was sent to prepare the way before the Lord.
Now, let's see. This is how God deals with men. God does not just deal with men just like that and take you in a hole and preach and say, I've told you, being God. No. He has one person. He is sober. Let me tell you, he's sober and organized. He has one person to tell everybody. One person, he deals with one person. He does not deal with multitudes. He deals with one person. Now we have seen how he dealt with Noah. Noah's time, how he built the ark, he was being instructed. And how Abraham also, he was being sent warnings, and then he also saved Lot. And now we are seeing in the destruction of Jerusalem, how he dealt with that. Let's see, he didn't just come all of a sudden destroying Jerusalem and destroying her. No, he sent a warning, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those who did not receive Christ were rejected.
Right.
Because all he said to Jerusalem when warning the people of the destruction of their city and temple.
Right.
Thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
In Luke 19,
in Luke
verse
19
44.
verse 44.
Right. And
we have on record the Lord's prediction of the destruction during the time of the generation that rejected him.
Right.
Which was fulfilled in less than 40 years from the time of the crucifixion.
Right.
And that the Christians in Judea might escape its impending doom. They were told that when they should see Jerusalem encompassed with armies, or as recorded by Matthew, the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, they were to flee to the mountains.
Now, you see, he had warned somebody. He had already given a warning. He didn't let things, an incident like that, occur without a warning. So, which incident are we looking for right now? The establishment of the kingdom. Do you think you will just go in the kingdom without a warning? We will be warned. We will be given time exactly like it was in the days of Noah. Right, read on. Such is the testimony.
Such is the testimony of inspiration respecting the dealings of God with his people in past ages.
In past ages, this is what he did. Now, in the New Testament, that's why he's just going to come and just find us without preparedness, without even preparing. We are saying PSM TV has messages to prepare people for the soon coming kingdom. And we will be on these lessons until we enter the kingdom. So stay tuned with BSM TV. You will find yourself in the kingdom, well prepared. Right. And what is it? Such is the testimony.
Such is the testimony of inspiration respecting the dealings of God with his people in past ages.
Right.
And it cannot be supposed that he would change his course relative to the future, when the future is to realize the crowning consummation of all prophetic declarations.
Right? We
accept the Bible as a revelation from heaven.
Is it? Yes. It's a revelation of what heaven is. Right?
What God has revealed in that book,
right?
Let no man call a mystery.
It's not a mystery.
Or a secret of the Almighty.
It's not a secret. Right?
The secret things belong unto the Lord our God.
Right?
But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever.
There are secret things. I've seen people pondering into secret things. They ask stupid questions. And, Cain was told, you go, I'll put a mark, no one will kill you where you are going. Cain, it was in the beginning of creation, isn't it? And they said, who then was he going to meet if Adam was the first man? The secret things belong to God. What has been exposed in the Bible is for us to be saved. So don't pry in the secret thing. There are some who say, want the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let's take what has been not exposed by the Bible. You are wasting your time. Secret things belong to God. Let's do our best with what has been exposed in the Bible and the spirit of prophets. Then we march in the kingdom. Don't pry into what. You have to read this verse properly. The secret things belong to God. There are so many books in the archives which were not brought into our Bible. Why? Because God just selected what we are supposed to have so that we are saved. Don't pry into what is not. Have you finished what has been exposed? When you are prying into what has not been exposed, you see people run haywire looking for other things, and yet what is in front of them, they haven't even tackled. Right, let's read on.
If the sacred scriptures do not designate any period in particular for the second appearing of Christ,
right,
then men should at once abandon the search for proofs of his second coming.
If the scriptures don't tell us when Christ is going to come, then what's the point? What's the point of reading? What's the point of believing actually when he's just going to come without us knowing? What's the point? Let's just abandon everything. But it's because all is secret he has put in the Bible. And when we are reading and when we are led even by the prophet of the time, the testimony of the people are saying, here is the faith of the saints and the testimony of Jesus and the faith of the commandments and what, but the faith of Jesus has never been proclaimed. The faith of Jesus can only be proclaimed by the prophet. By the prophet, if you have no prophet, then you just have the commandments. But the faith of Jesus belongs to the prophet, right?
If the sacred scriptures do not designate any period in particular for the second appearing of Christ, then men should at once abandon the search for proofs of his soon coming.
Right?
But if prophecy, in a most harmonious manner, does point to the period of that great event, and if there is evidence that it is near, even at the doors, the subject at once assumes vast importance.
Right. So if the prophecies are pointing to the time of coming of Christ, if what we are reading is all indicating he is going to come, then everything about his coming is there for us to pry and read and also be admonished by God working through us through his prophet. Right? And what?
Can anything be learned from the Bible relative to the period of the second advent?
Right? Can anything be learned from the Bible relative to the period of the second advent?
Is a question unsettled in many minds.
Right? This question is unsettled in many minds. Can anything be learned from the Bible relative to the period of the second advent? Right? What is this?
This is a grave inquiry.
Right?
And from the nature of the subject is worthy of close investigation and candid answer.
We have to investigate closely and find an answer. Right? And how did Christ himself
treat the subject?
Christ knew about this subject. That people want to know when is he going to come. Christ knew about the subject. How did he treat that subject? Let's read.
When the disciples inquired, what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?
Right?
He did not reprove them for prying into that.
He did not say, stop asking about my coming. He did not reprove them to say, why are you asking that question? He didn't do that. What did he do? Right?
He did not reprove them for prying into that which was purposely hidden from all men.
Right?
No. He answered them in the most definite manner.
He gave them what was definite for them to know. Because obviously he knew they were not even going to come up to 2020. They were not. They all died before 1844, isn't it? But he answered them what was definite for them to know. Right? What is it?
He even states that there should be. He even states that there should be signs of that event, and adds, "When ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors."
He told them the signs: pestilence, earthquakes, volcanoes, all these signs that we are seeing. He said they are the signs. We are actually now in a pandemic. It's one of the signs, isn't it? But he said all this to them because he knew he was going to come in the time when we have all this, isn't it?
The simple fact that the Lord mentions signs of his second advent is the best proof possible that his people were not to remain ignorant of the relative nearness of the event.
Why did he waste time telling them about all these signs? Of course he knew this ones were not going to get to the day and hour. They will be dead. They will be sleeping. But why would he waste time telling them? Because he knew that the time for the coming is important for us to know. Right, and
add to this evidence his declaration that when these signs should be seen, his people should know that it was near, even at the doors.
Right.
And the case becomes an exceedingly strong one.
The time of his coming was not only near, but even at the door. If you hear something that even if it was at the door, sometimes when a relative passes on, we think, I was with him yesterday, and we were doing this and that and that and that, but I did not know his time was up. You understand? That's what he says. If it is at the door, it means at the time they were speaking, they did not know that was the time for that person's dying. Now, when we are saying this, at the time we are talking about this, we will learn that it was the time the kingdom was now about to be established. Now, read on. The prophecies,
especially those of Daniel and John,
right,
clearly point to the period of the second coming of Christ,
right,
but do not give the definite time of that event.
Right.
Some of the prophetic periods reach to the time of the end. Others extend still further down, very near the end itself,
right,
to an event of which we shall speak when we consider the subject of the sanctuary of the 8th chapter of Daniel.
Right.
But none of the periods of Daniel reached to the second appearing of Christ.
Right.
The scriptures of Old and New Testaments were given by inspiration of God for our instruction, faith, and practice. The prophetic numbers of Daniel and John are a part of that inspired word and were especially designed to guide the people of God in the solemn warning to the people of the last generation to prepare for the coming of the Son of Man.
Right.
And having reached the period to which the prophecies distinctly point at the time of the expectation, preparing, waiting and watching, we should feel the force of that class of admonitory declarations from Christ, especially applicable to our time, like these words in Mark 13 verse 33.
What does it say?
Take heed,
right?
Watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is.
Right. So we will know the time Christ comes. Why? Because he has laid it all in the scriptures. He has given, and the actual date of coming, we will be told that is on that day. When William Miller prepared for the coming of Christ in 1844, he had read Daniel chapter 8, verse 14 to 13 to 14, and 2,300 days. He had the actual time, right? Although it was him entering into the Holy of Holies, but he had a date. We will also find it from the scriptures, exactly the date he is coming, like it was with William Miller, like it was with Noah. Noah's time there was no Bible, there was no book, there was nothing. God was actually telling him. But God talks to us now by reading, praying in the scriptures. We will know. We will actually know, and he will just emphasize it as it was seen by Sister White to say, the hour and the day was announced, and there was an earthquake when the announcement was being done. Now, evidence. Now, let's go to another book. It says evidence.
Evidence of the time of the end.
Right?
By most people, the evidences of the soon coming of Christ are considered insufficient to base faith upon.
Whether you tell people the evidence that he's about to come, some people say, no, it's too shallow for me to believe he's coming. The evidence. But most people, you tell them about the evidence of the coming of Christ, they say it's too shallow. I can't believe, because we have been having all this. We have, science has it all. When an earthquake occurs, they will say it's measuring, so it's done because of this. The science have it. So the evidence, most people don't believe the evidence of the coming of Christ. Now read on. By most people,
By most people, the evidences of the soon coming of Christ are considered insufficient to base faith upon.
Right?
But the testimony and acts of one man condemned the people destroyed by the flood.
Just one man. When Noah preached, do you understand? Everybody who did not obey that message was drowned. The evidence of one man drowned. Now we have the kingdom going to be established. The evidence of one preacher about the kingdom. Anyone who does not take heed to that will be drowned like Noah's people. That's it. Won't be able to go into the kingdom. Now let's read. The evidence.
The evidences then were sufficient.
Right?
Otherwise, the world would not have been condemned.
Otherwise, people will say, what type of God do we have? Who just drown everybody when no one preached. But because Noah preached, so God was justified by drowning the people. He was well justified that a message was preached. Right?
But 100 times more convincing evidences come pouring in upon us that the day of the Lord is near.
Now,
and hasted
there's
greatly.
one evidence in Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. Let's read that evidence. Verse 14. Right?
And this gospel of the kingdom.
Which one?
Of the kingdom.
We haven't been told it's of family life or of stewardship or of whatever. The gospel is of the kingdom. Have we heard it? Have we heard this gospel of the kingdom? Because in the time of Noah, it was the gospel of the ark. So I should think anywhere else there were several gospels. But there was a gospel of that hour which was for building the ark. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached everywhere. You know, you make the whole day and even a seminar or even a full crusade only to teach people how to stay home, husband and wife, how to kiss each other and how to, you know, the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all. Read on.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations.
Right?
And then shall the end come.
It's the gospel of the kingdom that I hear in the Bible. I didn't hear any other gospel. Did we hear the gospel of the kingdom somewhere like it was with Noah? There was one gospel which condemned the whole world. The whole Bible was full of gospels. But there was one gospel which is in the Bible which condemned everyone. Now, here, go back where you were reading. The evidence then was sufficient. Read on.
The evidences then were sufficient. Otherwise, the world would not have been condemned.
Right?
But 100 times more convincing evidences come pouring in upon us that the day of the Lord is near.
Right?
And hasteth greatly.
Right?
We follow down the numerous prophetic chains of Daniel and the Revelation. And we find ourselves in every instance standing just before the day of wrath.
Right?
We see the signs spoken of by prophets,
right,
by Christ, and in the epistles fulfilling or fulfilled.
Right?
And at the right time and in the right manner to fulfill certain prophecies, a solemn message arises in different parts of the world.
Right?
Blow ye the trumpet in Zion,
right,
and sound an alarm in my holy mountain.
Right?
Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble,
right,
for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand.
Right.
Joel 2 verse 1.
We have this trumpet in Zion, in the church, in the house of God. The trumpet of the kingdom message is being blown. Blow ye the trumpet. Someone will say, oh, why don't you want to preach to all these heathens? They need Christ and leave those that are already in the dish that have already been caught by the net. You know what? Blow the trumpet in Zion. Blow the trumpet in those who are being sealed in the house of God. This gospel of the kingdom has been preached for a witness, and the end shall come. After it is preached, the end shall come. We have seen that verse and read it carefully and analyzed it and know that this is the gospel of the hour of the end. After it is preached, the end comes. But do we believe? All these evidence are not sufficient for one to believe. This is what we have read here. Now read on. Wherever we look,
we see prophecy fulfilling.
Right?
While the knowledge of God and the spirit of holiness are departing, spiritual wickedness, like a flood, covers the land.
Right?
But these evidences are considered insufficient to rest faith upon.
Right?
Well,
do we see any wickedness around? Thousands of wickedness. But is it enough for you to have faith that it's in the last days? Now, what else?
But these evidences are considered insufficient to rest faith upon.
Right?
Well, what kind of evidence would the unbelieving have?
Right?
When the signs of the end, says the skeptic, are fulfilled, they will be so plain that no one can doubt.
I want a really plain sign to show me that Christ is coming. The skeptic say that. Right? We have numerous signs, more than enough signs that he is at the door. And read on.
When the signs of the end, says the skeptic, are fulfilled, they will be so plain that no one can doubt.
Right?
But
that's what they think. That it should be a sign that it's so plain everyone will say, yes, he's now coming. There won't be a sign like that. The signs that have been said in the Bible are all there. They are all finished. And there's none that is left. Because if you are waiting for something that will shake you to say, yes, we have gone there, there's none. All the signs that have been said have been fulfilled. Now read on.
But if the signs are of such a nature,
right,
and are fulfilled in such a manner as to compel all to believe in the coming of Christ,
right,
how can it be as it was in the days of Noah?
How can then it be in the days of Noah? Then we will say those people who lived in the time of Noah were stupid or something. They were not stupid. They were like you and I, refusing to believe these signs of the coming of Christ. The signs of the establishment of the kingdom. They are like you and I, not believing this because they were not stupid. The reason why they did not go in the ark is unbelief, which is already there in the time when Christ comes. There is so much unbelief that there won't be a kingdom established on earth. We are ready to hope in the cloud. They were just like that, the people in the time of Noah. Now read on.
Men were not then compelled to believe.
Right. They were not compelled to believe. Now, how many times have we been taught about the feasts? And how many times are we asking questions to prove that we don't believe? How many times are we being told that Malachi is brought for Malachi verse 4, chapter 4, verse 4 to 5 says, remember ye the law of Moses of the statutes, which are the feasts, and the judgments. They are going to be preached by Elijah the prophet. And how many times do we believe that there is no prophet? How many times do we... They were just like what we are doing. They were just the same. They were not stupid. Remember, these are the people early enough who knew that God was there. They can't be as more stupid than us. But they did not believe. We don't believe like them. If we believed, then all the signs are there. We were told the first sign, the big fruit tree and branches, tender, and the summer is near. What was he talking about when he said that? Now, we're told about all pestilences, earthquakes, everything that is happened, or the wickedness which is abound. We are told about the gospel of the kingdom, we are told about everything. Everything has been finished. Yeah? The signs in the stars, in the sun, in the moon, everything has been finished. But how many will believe? How many will believe? Are we the same as the people in the time of Noah? Noah preached for 120 years. People were listening and calling him all names. Fanatic, defector, you what, you fool, Noah, this and that. Are we doing the same? If you listen to how people program and say, this is satanic, this is a defector, this is a what? Defecting what? The only thing you can defect from is the principles of God. Is what God is saying in the thus saith the Lord. Defecting a building. I'm saying building is a defector. What you know what? All the things that happened in time of Noah are happening right now. Believe me or not, they are happening. Why? We are being told about the kingdom, the gospel of the kingdom, and we don't believe like Noah's time. And we are being told about the signs happening in the world, in the geographical areas, in everything. But we are still the same as the people who refused Noah's message. We are just the same. Now, read on. Those
who have wished to doubt
his word.
Those who have wished to doubt his word,
right,
have found a wide field in which to doubt,
right,
and a broad road to perdition.
Right.
While those who have wished to believe have ever found everlasting rock upon which to rest their faith.
Right.
Just before the end, the world will be hardened in sin.
Right. Is it what is happening? Where we see the world so hardened in sin. You go to corruption, you go to anything, all the hardness is there. Is this time? Right?
Just before the end, the world will be hardened in sin and indifferent to the claims of God.
Right?
Men will be careless about hearing warning of danger.
They will be careless when the warning is being uttered. That was what it was in the time of Noah. And what else?
And be blinded by cares, pleasures, and riches.
You tell them today is a feast of tabernacle. I need to go and work. I need the pound. I need the cares of them, because if I don't work, I don't have. If I don't this, they are all deeply engrossed into the cares, into the pleasures, into the riches. They are busy making sure that pound, that million in the bank accumulates another million, another, until Christ comes. That's what it was in the days of Noah. They were busy in the cares, in the pleasures, in everything until the flood came. Now read on.
It is right. Okay.
An
unbelieving and infidel generation will be eating, drinking, marrying, building, planting, and sowing.
All this is not wrong when you do it. Only when you do in excess. That's where you are. When things are done in excess, that's when they are condemned. But it's not wrong to eat. It's not wrong to drink. It's not wrong to marry. But when it is done against the will of God, in excess, you have a house there, and you want another one there, and you want another one. You are busy. You are really busy. But listen, let's hear the explanation of it. It is
right to eat and drink to sustain nature.
Right.
But the sin in excess and gluttony.
Right. The
marriage covenant is holy, but God's glory is seldom thought of.
Right.
Building, planting, and sowing, necessary for convenient shelter, food, and clothing, are right.
These are
but
right.
The world.
Building, clothing, food, necessary for me to have shelter, for me to live, is good. But when it is done unnecessarily in excess, that's what God is condemning. And what?
But the world has gone wholly after these things.
The world has now engrossed the whole mind into all these things.
So that men have no time, no disposition to think of God.
You talk to that person about the coming of Christ, you are disturbing the person.
Heaven, Christ's coming, and the judgment.
Right.
This world is their God.
Right.
And all their energies of body and mind are devoted to its service.
Right.
And the evil day is put far away.
Now that evil day is away. Now they are busy taking videos of this is my palace, this and this and this and this. No time for God until the day steadily comes as a thief. Now go.
The faithful watchman who sounds the alarm as he sees destruction coming in is held up before the people from the pulpits of our land and by the religious press as a fanatic.
And you preach about the kingdom at that time, disturbing them to build, to marry, to drink, to pleasures of life. You are disturbing them all. They hold the watchman as a fanatic. This is what they did to Noah.
a fanatic, a teacher of dangerous heresies.
And these people are teaching wrong things. These people are misusing the scripture. They're misusing Sister White. They're misusing where did they misuse? You can't even point to one text which was misused, but you just blanket and blanket. These are wrong, blanketing and blanketing without evidence of where they are wrong. Now,
while in contrast is set forth a long period of peace and prosperity to the church.
Instead, what are they saying? Shut up. We want peace and prosperity. We are prospering. We have got so many people believing in this world, in that world, in that way. We have billions believing in our message there, in our message there. They have other messages which are not the kingdom being established.
So the churches are quieted to sleep.
Right?
The scoffer continues to scoff.
Right?
And the mocker mocks on.
And the scoffer will start scoffing. We are rich and increased. We are in peace and safety. We have many people. We have many people paying tithe. And many people, we are so prosperous. We are what? So the people are asleep until the day comes. And it will come. Right?
The scoffer continues to scoff.
Right?
And the mocker mocks on.
Right?
But their day is coming.
Right?
Thus saith the prophet of God.
Right?
How ye? For the day of the Lord is at hand.
Right?
It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty.
Right?
Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt.
Right? Most
dreadful day.
Right?
And it is near.
Right?
And is it near? Yes, it hasteth.
Right.
It hasteth greatly. What a description given by the prophet. Read it as you read, and as you read, try to feel how dreadful will be the day.
Right?
The great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord.
Right?
The mighty man shall cry there bitterly.
Right? The day is a day of wrath.
That day is a day of wrath.
Right?
And day
of trouble.
Of trouble and distress. A day of wasteness and desolation.
Right?
A day of darkness and gloominess.
Right?
And a day of clouds and thick darkness.
Right. This was all on Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 14 up to 18. Go and read more about that day. My advice is stop what you are doing. Stop and think. Stop and think. Is the world going anywhere far? Do you think it's going anywhere far according to how it looks like? Do you think we are going any far, or you think the world is coming to an end? If it is coming to an end, you better take heed and start preparing for the soon coming of Christ. Christ is soon coming to establish the kingdom. You should be there. I should be there. Let's stop and think about the day he comes and prepare to be ready. May God bless this reading.